Hey, Beastista here, and welcome to week one of the VDL. This week we're playing against the Raging Warriors, coached by Rex. Rex is a very good coach. They, I believe, made it to the semifinals last season of the VDL, and they are a former champion in the VDLS division specifically. In addition to that, they have a very strong team, as we can see here on the right is theirs and mine is to the left. They have Dragapult, which is a really fast and powerful Pokemon. I actually have the only Pokemon that actually outspeeds it in the entirety of this series with Electrode. They also have Meowscarada and Annihilate, which are both very strong Pokemon. They have Fake Out and Tinkaton. And in addition, they have some pretty good, support mons and priority moves like from Scizor and things like that. Um, so some of the big things that looking at the matches, I do see that the team is fairly physical. They have a couple of special attackers, but the big threats I consider are all physical, and so I definitely want some way to punish that. The easiest way is probably going to be my Iron Treads because it's incredibly bulky on the physical side. In addition to that, they kind of have a pretty solid Trick Room mode, so I don't really want to be in Trick Room if I can help it. And so I decided to go a little bit more on the fast side. And so one of the things I want to kind of focus on more is on Tailwind or just my faster speed tier Pokemon. Other than that, like I said, I saw some of these Pokemon kind of match very well into one of my teams. For example, Scissor specifically into Fluttermane, which is one of my big Pokemon. And so with that, here is the team I ended up bringing. So I got with Fluttermane with Booster Energy. So the idea behind this is I outspeed every single Pokemon on their team with Booster Energy because I get a speed boost with it. The only Pokemon that can outspeed me is specifically Choice Scarf Dragapult, which honestly did pretty good work in prep. And then I have Terra Water, so I can survive bullet punches from Scizor a little bit better. And in addition, losing the Ghost typing helps me survive pretty much any move that a Dragapult can hit me with if they are Choice Scarf. Other than that, I just got my stab moves and then Power Gym specifically, so I can hit Pyroar, since Pyroar doesn't get hit by Moonblast or Shadow Ball. Next up, we have Bruxis with Choice Scarf. So Bruxis um, prevents priority moves, so they're not going to be able to Bullet Punch my Fluttermane or the other my Pokemon, or Sucker Punch either of my Pokemon if Bruxis is out. And one of the bad things about Bruxis is that they can actually technically fake out with their Tinkaton because of its ability. So that's one of the things to note worth. But however, Choice Scarf Bruxis does really good damage with Wave Crash. I have Terra Fire, so I can hit the Grass Pokemons. Or any Terra Pokemon like Terra Steel Pokemon for super effective. But otherwise, it's mainly going to be Wave Crash and then like Crunch into specifically Dragapult. With the Choice Scarf, I should outspeed anything that doesn't have a Choice Scarf, basically. However, I do get outsped by a couple of Choice Scarf mons on their side. As I mentioned earlier, we have the Iron Treads. This Iron Treads is incredibly physically bulky, and so the idea is hopefully to get into an endgame situation where I can just get an Iron Defense up and then basically kill them before they can break through its wall because Treads is a really good physical defense. We have Terra Flying specifically to get immunity from the ground weakness. So if someone is Terra Ground or if they have a ground Pokemon like Phan, I can just Terra Flying to get that immunity and then slowly get an Iron Defense and then start killing things pretty rapidly. So Electrode, we have for speed control purposes. I had some issues with, Choice Scarf Dragapult in prep or Tailwind Scizor in prep. And so just Widelands Thunder Wave definitely helps quite a bit. So just, and also gives me chances of full paralysis. And then we have the Screech to half this physical defense of any Pokemon other than Dragapult. And with that, I can basically one hit KO almost every Pokemon on their team with one of my good physical attackers with the Screech. And then we just have Foul Play and Volt Switch, which is a little bit of damage and pivoting. And I went specifically with Soundproof on Electrode so that I a little bit better against the Pyroar and Toxtricity. Because Soundproof gives you immunity to moves like Snarl and Overdrive and things like that. Next, we have Staraptor. I decided to go with a Reckless Life Orb Staraptor. The reason behind this is that Intimidate doesn't seem super well this week because they have Defiant. The possibility of having Defiant, Annihilate, Clear, Body, Dragapult, and the always critting with their Meowscarada as their three big physical attackers. and so the Intimidate doesn't seem that well. And so we have Reckless and Life Orb, and with Brave Bird. So Brave Bird should one hit KO Annihilate, but should one hit KO Dragapult. We have Double Edge, which has a pretty good chance to one hit KO Electros. And then we have Close Combat specifically to hit like Tinkaton or Terra Steel Pokemon, which resist the other two moves. And then we have Terra Fighting to get a little bit of extra damage into those possible Terra Steel Pokemon. And also, it gives me a resist to like rock moves and things like that. And then finally, we have Hariyama. I almost went with Houndoom instead of this. However, I decided to go with Hariyama. So Hariyama is an assault vest because, in order to take some of their special moves, if they end up bringing a special attacker. In addition, it has Fake Out, which is really nice. I decided to just go with Drain Punch and knock off of my main damage moves because that pretty much hits everything for at least neutral. It also removes items and heals me up a little bit with those Drain Punches. And then we have Bullet Punch to kill Sash Pokemon to do a little damage if they outspeed my Hariyama before it dies. And we have Terra Steel to increase the damage of Bullet Punch. I don't really expect it to Terra Steel too much, but definitely a possibility. And so with that, let's get into the match. So before we started the match, this is the team paste I was given. This is just the Terra types. We are in this season of the VDL. We're giving each other Terra types at the start of the season. Which, as you can see, most of these Terra types are basically just the Terra that they would start with otherwise. Typically, that means that the team is going to be a little bit more offensive. The big one that to note is Dragapult and it being Terra Ghost. So Terra Ghost Dragapult definitely makes me believe that there's a good chance that he's going to have Terra Blast because Dragapult doesn't have a good physical ghost move that can kill my Flutter Mane in one hit. And so this definitely gave me the belief that there's a good chance that they're going to be Choice Scarf and or Terra Ghost in physical. But with that, let's get into the match. So here we are for game one. So I already showed you kind of all the Pokemon, some of my thoughts. So the big thing is I don't see Scizor, which is huge, and I don't see Pyro, which is also huge. Those are the two Pokemon I was most concerned with in prep. And so kind of just need to come up with the game plan. My standard game plan was just go Flutter Mane, Bruxish. It gets a little bit punished if they are in fact Choice Scarf Dragapult, and I think there's a chance that's the case. However, with the fact that they are both missing Scizor and Pyroar, and they have Electros and Donphan, Electro doesn't seem particularly good. And so I definitely don't want Electrode. So the big question is basically, do I want Hariyama or Iron Shreds is my last Pokemon? Because I decided to go with my standard lead, Staraptor in the back, because it hits everything on their team for really good damage. And then Hariyama, just if I think they're going to be a little more special, and or I think that I want to do a little bit more damage that way, or Iron Shreds if I think they're going to be a little more physical and I want to bulk up. I decided to go with Hariyama because I am a little bit concerned of Electrode being a special variant because that can do a lot of damage to both Iron Treads and Staraptor because my Iron Treads is not particularly specially bulky. And with that, let's get into the match. So they end up leading Dragapult and Tinkaton, and I lead my Bruxish and Flutter Mane. So as I mentioned earlier, because it's Mold Breaker, Tinkaton can actually fake out my Bruxish even though it has Dazzling, which prevents priority moves. And I do get the speed boost, and so here we know that I'm going to outspeed with Flutter Mane unless they're Choice Scarf from the Dragapult. And so I definitely want to play a little round of Choice Scarf Dragapult, even though I'm not 100% sure that's the case. I considered switching out, honestly, to bait a Terra Blast, a Terra Ghost Blast, but I decided to just Terra myself because I should take a Terra Ghost from a Dragapult and decided to just go for the Moon Blast. I definitely considered doing a Shadow Ball instead of a Moon Blast with the expectation that they might Terra to play around that. And so they end up Terraing before my Terra, which means that they are in fact Choice Scarf. This is not too surprising for me, and like I said, I played a little bit around this by Terraing myself because I EV'd my Pokemon specifically to survive a Terra Blast from Dragapult. However, this is definitely not the best situation if they just go for the Fake Out and a Terra Ghost because it's still going to do a huge chunk of damage, and I'm not going to get a kill because I went for the Moon Blast. Shadow Ball doesn't kill the Dragapult anyways, so it's not the end of the world that I went for a Moon Blast. However, I would do a little bit more damage with the Shadow Ball. As expected, they did go for the Fake Out of the Bruxish. Not much we can do about that. Not much I was going to play around. And they are, in fact, Terra Blast, which is unsurprising. This also means they're almost certainly physical. And with the damage calc, we see it does, in fact, physical. Though that's really close, I am actually specifically EV trained to survive that. So there's no way in which that kills me unless I am, in fact, crit. And so here I consider what they're going to do, and obviously the obvious way for me is to protect and then try to kill the Dragon Bolt. However, they could just go for the attack into Bruxus and kill Bruxus here, and so I don't want to protect the Flutter Mane here and risk that. And so the question is, do I want to make a hard read that they're going to attack Staraptor and switch it in because it's immune to the Ghost move, or just go for a double attacking move and guarantee that Dragon Bolt dies this turn? I decide to go for the double up into the Dragon Bolt and not making the bold read. I definitely strongly consider the bold read of switching out the Bruxish, specifically expecting them to not attack the Fluttermane. And as we see here, they do in fact go for the Terra Blast into the Bruxish instead of my Fluttermane. So my decision to tackle with both does let me kill Dragapult here, but if I did make the bold read, I would have been in a very amazing position. Obviously, I don't think it would have been worth that very risky decision. So I'm pretty happy with just taking out Dragapult here and getting a pretty good damage because though I am down a Pokemon, I did deal with one of the bigger threats. And in addition, I don't think that their specific set on their Tinkaton is that scary, and I can kind of ignore it a little bit. And so they end up bringing out Donphan, and I bring out my last two Pokemon, which is Hariyama and Staraptor. And so here I have Fake Out, and I should definitely Fake Out one of these two Pokemon. And then I have Brave Bird and Double Edge, which does massive damage to either of these Pokemon. Oh, well, to Donphan, and I have Close Combat if I want to do Tinkaton. I don't want to lower my defense and special defense, so I definitely don't want to Close Combat the Tinkaton. And in addition, Tinkaton is not that big of a threat, and so I decided to just double up into the Donphan. Sadly, they go for Protect. Definitely could have expected that a little bit. Maybe I should have, faked out the Tinkaton and then gone for the attack into Donphan. I definitely agree with my decision not to close combat because, like I said, I don't want to lower my special defense and defense here at this stage, especially because they have a Pokemon in the back. And they just reveal that they are Baby Doll Eyes, which is lowering my speed, which is pretty annoying since I have two physical attackers here. However, it's not the end of the world because both my Pokemon are really good base attack, and this double up should probably kill, or maybe not probably, but it has a pretty good chance of killing even if I get -2. And so I considered doing knockoff, but I decided to just go for Drain Punch because to get a little bit more extra damage. So one thing about this current situation, though, is the Donphan and my Hariyama actually have the same base speed. So there's a chance that they actually outspeed or underspeed, and it's kind of hard to tell. I have no speed investment on my Hariyama pretty much. However, I don't have negative speed like I would if it was in Trick Room. And so there's a pretty good chance that they outspeed me here. And I get a huge crit here that ends up almost one-hitting KO this Donphan. I definitely don't think this Drain Punch would have killed without that crit, but with that crit, I am able to kill it, and also I get outspeed. And like I said, so there's a chance that this is a speed tie there. I actually, talked a little bit with Rex in this later on, and that was actually technically not a speed tie, so definitely a little bit lucky for me here. But now both my Pokemon are -1. However, there is a chance that the double up should kill. Double Edge actually has a chance to one hit KO if I wasn't at -1. So I feel pretty good that the double up should kill. And I feel like I should be able to survive an attack with Hariyama because I am Assault Vest with this. And so basically, and I don't think Gigatongue Hammer kills the Hariyama, especially since Tinkaton seems a little bit more support oriented. So I decided to go for the double up. If the Gigaton Hammer does kill Staraptor here and they protect, I get a little bit punished, but I think I'm okay if I just go for the double up at this point. And they end up not going for protect, and we see that double edge does like 70% into this. As we see, like I said, there's a chance, but it looks like I would just miss out on the KO if that. And they end up going for the bulldoze, which is really fun because it actually does a little bit of damage to their Hariyama because it has levitate, and it activates a weakness policy. So this puts me in a really bad shape if they're able to hit me with a discharge, and I'm really concerned that they're going to outspeed me because even though we both get a speed drop, like I said, however, I outspeed and kill them, getting that kill, making it a huge position because now it's a 2v1 rather than pretty much a 1v1, but my Hariyama being no HP if they go for a pretty good damaging move. I found out later that that was actually a speed tie. And so that was a huge speed tie because a +2 special attacking Electros, though might not have killed the Hariyama if they went for something like a discharge, has a probably good chance to, kill the Staraptor and then do maybe 50% into this Hariyama and then maybe put it in range of a Gigatongue Hammer. But at this point now, the game is pretty much over, and I'm just debating if I just want to go for max damage, go for a knockoff just to get a little bit of information. And I decide to just go for the extra damage. However, they give up before they reveal any more information, which makes sense. And we're able to get game one. Definitely a really close and two, speed situations that definitely could have gave them a win because if either of those Pokemon outsped, I think they might have been able to get there. And then a huge crit. But with that, let's go to game two. So here for game one. So one of the big things I kind of feel like I learned for the most part is that I think Kariyama seems very good into their team. I really wish I saw if Electros was special or physical, but we shall see. Hopefully this game. Electrode, as kind of mentioned, I still think is pretty bad. And so I like Hariyama. I think Staraptor seems necessary just as a damage dealing Pokemon. And I wasn't a huge fan of Brux this year. And so I think I decided to just kind of go with the Staraptor and Hariyama lead. This gives me fake out pressure for most of their Pokemon. Also does good chunk of damage into a lot of these Pokemon. And then the Staraptor, which one hit KOs almost everything on their team. Um, and then the big question is, what do I want at the back? And as you kind of see, I'm definitely thinking that Iron Treads looks like a good Pokemon to bring in this game. And then the big question is what do I want as my last Pokemon? And I'm thinking that Fluttermane probably just because it's higher stat total, better than the Bruxish. Like I said, I was already pretty much guaranteed I wanted to lead Hariyama because I wanted to bring in and want fake out lead. And then Fluttermane I thought was better than Bruxish, and so we have Iron Hands or Iron Treads in the back. Iron Treads, like we kind of see, because the Dragapult is physical, I think means that there's only one possibility of a special attacker, and I think that Iron Treads can basically 1v1 almost everything on their team if or even 2v1 most of the things on our team if I can get rid of the Electros. And with that, let's get into the game. So they end up leading Dragapult Mousecrata, which I think is actually a really good lead for me because Brave Bird is a guaranteed one hit KO onto Dragapult, and Fake Out into the Meowscarada prevents it from doing anything. In addition, I should be able to survive any attack from the Dragapult since it's physical. So this protects Meowscarada, which is pretty much expected. And the Fake Out goes into that spot. And in addition, the Dragapult ends up going for a Will-O-Wisp instead of a damaging move, which definitely is a little bit annoying since that prevents me from killing the Dragapult here. However, it does mean that the Dragapult is not in a particularly good place next turn because I am Guts on my Hariyama, so burning would actively just increase my damage output and not do much other than give me a little bit of chip damage. And so with Dragapult being pretty much useless next turn, I definitely want to ignore it. And so the big question is, do I want to double up into the Meowscarada spot, predict a switch out, or just go for a Tailwind? I decide to just go for a Tailwind because I don't 100% expect them to necessarily switch out and just go for a Drain Punch since that should kill Meowscarada. I definitely think that this might be a misplay because there's a good chance that one, they switch out, so I could have at least doubled up into that or attack that switching spot, and two, there's a good chance that Meowscarada might have a move like Trick Room that I completely did not think about, and the fact that my Hariyama outsped both the Electros and the Donphan last turn definitely means that there's a chance that they do have Trick Room on their team. In addition to that, we do bring them down to their focus sash instead of getting the kill. And if we doubled up into that spot, we would get a kill. And they're able to get Trick Room up the same turn that I just set up Tailwind, which is a terrible position for me. And so here I decided to go for, um, uh, I checked my Terra type, but the big thing is that Electros can kill my Staraptor here. Obviously, Staraptor is not the most relevant Pokemon at this point, so maybe I can just let it die. But I think there's a good chance that they just go for an electric move that kills it. And so with that, I can just switch in Donphan and or my Iron Treads get a pretty clean switch in, especially if they go for an electric move, and then get a Drain Punch off and either kill Meowscarada or do a little bit of damage with Drain Punch. I decided to target the Electros because, as I kind of mentioned in like the team preview, Electros is my biggest threat to my Iron Treads because I think it's the only possible special Pokemon on their team. Meowscarada ends up protecting, which makes sense since they're probably still outspeed my Hariyama, and they just go for a discharge, which means that the Iron Treads gets a free switch in, which I'm pretty happy with. And this discharge ends up doing really negligible damage, especially with this Drain Punch giving me a little bit of HP back, and this and in addition doing pretty good damage. So I pretty much got a perfect turn, even though Trick Room is up and I have Tailwind. So here I considered doing a couple things, but I decided to just go for a protect, and I considering just going for another Drain Punch or a Bullet Punch. So I could Terra Steel to take a grass move a little bit better. However, I do kind of want to save my Terra for later on. I decided to just go for a Bullet Punch. I honestly don't like this decision. I think I should have gone for a Drain Punch because I think Meowscarada still outspeeds me even though I have Tailwind up. Um, in case they switch out, and or gone for an attack into Electros just to get a little bit more damage. However, killing one of their Pokemon is always, somewhat nice. So they end up tearing Electric to get a little bit of extra damage from the Electros, which makes sense. I'm not going to kill it with Drain Punch this turn, and there's not much my Iron Treads can do, and I just go for the Protect with Iron Treads anyways. And the Bullet Punch ends up killing the Meowscarada. Like I said, maybe I should have just ignored it, or maybe I should have Drain Punch in that spot in case they switched out, but I am able to get the kill. And they just go for a single target move and the Thunderbolt into the Hariyama, which means I actually could have attacked with Iron Treads that turn. However, that Thunderbolt does a pretty good chunk of damage. And so they just bring out Donphan, and Donphan is definitely outspeeding my entire team, and there's a good chance they're going to go for Earthquake here. And so I decided to switch into Staraptor because if they do in fact go for Earthquake, it's actually a free switch in, and also because it's burned, I'm honestly not that. I don't care that much about it as a Pokemon. And we switch out the Staraptor, and they do in fact just go for an Earthquake. Missing both the Electros and the Staraptor. And we see that this Earthquake does a lot of damage into my Hariyama, mainly because it is Life Orb. And they just go for a Discharge, which is able to kill the Staraptor and the Hariyama, now bringing me down to 2 Pokemon versus their 3. They got a crit, definitely didn't matter though. So this is the last turn of Tailwind, which is definitely nice. And that also means that this is the second to last turn, or this is upcoming turn is the last turn of Trick Room. And because my last 2 Pokemon both have Protect, I can just go for a double Protect here, and I'm in a pretty good position. So as we see, it is the last turn of Trick Room, as I expected, and the double Protect is just pretty much free in this situation to make sure that they don't outspeed us. And we see we double Protect, and they just end up going for an Earthquake in order to do a little bit of damage, try to get the kill on, both, or, good damage to both my Pokemon. And a Discharge just, to probably try to kill the Mismagius. And with this, Trick Room is over, and now I feel pretty good. I think that if Electros can die this turn, I pretty much am guaranteed win if I can get an Iron Defense up. And I decide to just go for the damage into the max damage into Electros with the Flutter Mane and try to get a Iron Defense up, because I don't expect them to try to kill this Iron Treads right here, because I think they're more concerned of the Flutter Mane. However, I am considering just going for the double attack into Electros to try to get the guaranteed kill there. Luckily for me, they end up protecting Donphan, which definitely puts me in an amazing position because I don't actually care about Donphan too much at this point, and I'm able to get pretty much a free Iron Defense up. Like obviously, I could have killed Electros with the double up. However, the Iron Defense is definitely going to make anything in the back, be easily dealt with because we know the last Pokemon is Dragapult, and so here I decide to just go for a Terra Flying in order to not take any damage from an Earthquake on the from the Donphan, and go for a Body Press into the Donphan. So, and then from here, the big question is whether or not I want to go for Body Press or Stomping Tantrum into the Donphan. The Body Press does the most damage. However, the Stomping Tantrum is better if they decide to go for the bold switch in. And here, the Moonblast should be able to kill the Electros. So I'm a little bit concerned of a possibility of a protective Electros and switch into Dragapult, because that's kind of the only thing that's going to be able to kill to punish me here. But if outside of specifically that, I think I should be able to get in a game-winning position here, because at +2 defense, my Iron Treads should be able to deal with both Dragapult and Donphan, especially if I'm flying as I Terra into, since the ground type since they can't hit with the ground moves from Donphan. And we kill the Electros with that Moonblast. And the Body Press ends up doing about 50%. And they just went for Earthquake as expected, and my Donphan ends up taking 0 damage from this. This also makes Donphan be, literally do less damage than they, possibly, or, lets them not be able to do the most damage they can because they don't have the stab super effective move. And so here, I think the game is pretty much over. I think I should be able to take anything they can throw at me. However, I should go for a protect to see which moves they end up clicking, um, because I want to see which is the bigger threat. And they end up going for protect on Donphan, so it's pretty good. So now we know they're likely can't protect the following turn, and they end up going for Dragon Darts as their move. And even though I am no longer steel, it's pretty. I feel pretty good about my position. And then, so from here, I think that Dragapult is probably the bigger threat than Donphan. However, I also think that um, Donphan is probably not going to be able to do any damage to me if I just body press. So I decided to just get the kill and completely ignore that damage. However, they ended up going for Ice Shard, which I didn't quite expect them to necessarily hit me with. And they go for Dragon Darts, but as we can see, that Dragon Darts does so little damage. Even with a crit, I don't think they're going to be able to kill me as I kill their Donphan with body press. And so now at this point, even a double crit, I don't think gets them out of this, and Stomping Tantrum likely kills them from this range. And so we just go for the Stomping Tantrum, try to get the kill on the Dragon Ball. As we see, they go for the Dragon Darts, and it does some damage. Gets me down to below my Citrus Berry proc. However, even if I don't kill here, this game is pretty much guaranteed over, and I'm able to get the clean kill with the Stomping Tantrum. And with this, we win 2-0 our first week. Definitely got a little bit lucky. Definitely, definitely was a fun match though, and it was definitely scary. I definitely think that I was very happy not to see the Pyroar and the Scissor though. But with that, hopefully y'all enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.